Welcome to Centre Court. With thanks to Flight Centre, score game-changing savings on your holiday when you bundle and save with Flight Centre. And CRT, farming starts with CRT. No matter where you live or what you farm, it starts with CRT. I'm Bianca Chatfield and Maddie Brown is alongside me for another edition of Centre Court. And don't we have so much to talk about after the international series got underway. So let's get straight into it with the netball wrap. Of course, game one of the Constellation Cup, Maddie, it was a bit different for both of us, is that we actually got to sit on the couch and watch it.
Yeah.
And it was exciting. The game had everything, but what a dominant performance from the Silver Ferns.
It was. I mean, it was to and fro in that first quarter, only just going up by a goal. But in that second, they came out absolutely firing and really kind of disrupted a lot of what Australia were trying to do. I think they were looking around going, what are our answers? And we have mentioned this before about having to problem solve during the quarter. I think the Diamonds really struggled with that. I mean, you look at the second half, once again, Australia came back out after the break and did well, but a dominant performance again by the Silver Ferns in the fourth quarter to take it away. And that deficit was just too hard. And it didn't matter what the Diamonds actually tried to maneuver around and pull out. Nothing was good enough.
So game one, 14-goal win to the Silver Ferns. And when you look at the game too, we often talk about the Diamonds being clinical, but the Silver Ferns were clinical in the way they moved the ball. I thought Ekanasio played such a great role, went to post that high shot that is untouchable, but then also played that feeding role when she knew that was her role out there as well.
I think previously she's played too much of the feeding role and not actually put up enough volume, but she showed that, you know, I'm a threat with the ball when I'm actually in the circle. I can dish off. I think just every single person in that attack end for the Silver Ferns brought their own game, but also like accompanied and kind of complemented everyone else around it, which was really good. And Grace Nweke, didn't matter where the ball was played, she was getting it and she was putting it under fire. I do think, you know, we spoke to Dame Noeline Taurua last week and she said possession was their biggest thing. They weren't sure how they'd go against that, you know, relentless one-on-one Diamonds defence, but they proved that they can actually be more frugal with the ball than maybe in a zone. So when they needed to, they did. I also think the Diamonds, there was a few moves that I was like, we're trying to band-aid the problem. I think there's some players that are a little bit untouchable, and that's fine. They're experienced players like a Bruce, like a Watson, but we've got the cream of the cream. Like, it shouldn't matter who's on court. Yes, they might be some leaders, but take them off. See what some of these players can do, especially the defence end that played against England. I would have loved to have seen that put out. They're in form. And that's not to say that, you know, Watson and Bruce aren't great players like they were, but they can have off days and that's totally fine. But rather than trying to shift everyone else around, just pluck them out, put some other combinations in there. So I thought that might be something that they need to address for the second game.
And this is something mentally that we know when you're on tour it is tough. We saw them, the Diamonds up against England, obviously lose that second game and then have to come back and win it. We know that they can come back, but it just really shows how tough it is to win in New Zealand. We touched on it last week. Since 2019, the Diamonds haven't been able to win over there. We've got game coming up tonight, and that will be in Auckland. So they've got another shot at trying to beat the Silver Ferns on their own home soil. Do you think they can do it? I mean, we're going to get into more of a preview later, but do you think, what are they working on from that mental side of things to try and make sure they can win it?
Oh, well, I do think that the attack end was obviously something that we've seen fire so much and just really struggled to connect. So I think attacking wise, they'll need to make some adjustments there. They did struggle to get that ball. And as I said, we just mentioned before, I think the Silver Ferns beat the Diamonds at their own game.
Yes.
So, you know, it's not a lot to have to change, but they need to just go back to, you know, sometimes I would love that tempo, that change of pace. We don't always have to, you know, fire it down in the 1 second, bring it back, reset, make them adjust. But the crowd over there is hard to play against. We know that. They are so vocal, but you just got to drown that out. And even the umpiring calls, you just got to continue to play on and don't expect it. So, yeah, I don't think there's much to change, even though it's a big goal deficit, but they're going to want to have to bring it because otherwise the confidence that the Silver Ferns will take from that win, it'll be hard to beat, especially that this series is going to a result.
Well, that brings us to the face-off with thanks to CRT. Farming starts with CRT. Now, today we're going to take a look at the matchup between the player of the match in Game 1, Maddie Gordon, and Paige Hadley. Now, this matchup, it had everything, but Maddie Gordon, she was outstanding across the entire game. I mean, she came off at the very end, but she was outstanding.
Yeah, 58 minutes, 26 out of 29 goal assists. So efficiency with the ball was huge. 2 deflections, 8 second phase receives and 2 pickups compared to Paige Hadley, 38 minutes, only 5 goal assists out of 17 feeds. 10 second phase receives and only 1 pickup. So you look at the experience of the Hadley and you look at Maddie Gordon, who I think has probably now consolidated herself in the team, but she's struggled to sometimes find a spot. And I think just sometimes that, you know, bit of fire in the belly, knowing you have to really earn the right to be out there, has definitely put her in a good position to perform like she did. Hadley, usually always in the mix, like she's going to have to go back, review her game and go, wow, she pulled me apart in all the areas that we'd usually see Hadley, advance and be really good in. So, yeah, I thought Gordon was outstanding, and for such a long period of time in centre. Centre's hard at the best, but international netball, no timeouts, constantly on the move. I mean, she got 2 minutes off at the end.
What a luxury.
But yeah. But Maddie Gordon, she really was the kind of playmaker down there and just worked seamlessly in with the goalers.
And almost the opposite from what we know from both coaches. Usually Nolene Tarua makes a lot of changes. Yep. Stacey Marinkovic not so much, but it was the complete reversal, wasn't it? We saw hardly any change, and only right at the very end from Nolene Tarua. But Stacey Marinkovic was chopping and changing, trying different combinations. I mean, she had to try and find a way to at least creep back some of the lead that the Silver Ferns have. But it makes it more and more exciting for what's to come. Also, a big shout out to the Kelpies, who beat the Net Blacks by about 50 goals, I think it was in the end. That was a stunning performance. They absolutely smashed them. So we hope that they play another 3 games coming up. So hopefully the Net Blacks can get in there and take some motivation, inspiration from the Silver Ferns. Well, that was the face-off thanks to CRT. Farming starts with CRT. No matter where you live or what you farm, it starts with CRT. Okay, Maddie, it's over to you for Maddie's Minute. What have you got for us this week?
Well, B, exciting news. We've been waiting to see whether netball's going to be part of the Commonwealth Games, and we can confirm that, yes, we are going to be part of it. Woohoo! Woohoo! Thank goodness, because it would have been a long wait to obviously have a major tournament in netball. I think it's great that netball's in it. Obviously, safe sports are athletics, netball, artistic gymnastics, not rhythmic. I mean, you'd be disappointed with that. You can't perform. Track cycling, there's a few ones in there, but hockey was one that's out that kind of shocked me a little bit. Beach volleyball, I feel like some of those sports have been in there for so long. It's nearly like crazy to think that they're not going to be there, especially hockey. I know for us in Glasgow, they start at the same time as the netball. They finish where usually the last matches or medals to be decided, because we go the whole time. But yeah, netball's there. Glasgow's a great hunting ground for us. We were there in 2014. We got the gold. So hopefully we can replicate that again.
Yeah, it's great news to hear that netball's in. It will be a very different event to what we experienced in Glasgow in 2014, because now there's only 10 different sports. So it'll be a much smaller village and much smaller kind of resources that are going in around it. So it'll be very interesting. But I think especially for our sport, I think it's really important that we're there. And hopefully the Diamonds go and get the job done. I
do wonder whether that, depending on where it actually is held, depends on which sports may have to come and go over the coming years, because if it's played in a country where maybe netball isn't as competitive, well then that might put us. So I think we were lucky that it's over there in Glasgow, in Scotland, close to the UK, where there's many players playing netball. So very lucky.
Very lucky, and it meant so much to us to be a part of it, didn't it? Yeah. So I really hope Commonwealth Games finds a way to flourish and to keep growing, so these sports who've missed out can come back in. All right, it's time now for our Centre Court Deep Dive. Of course, we've mentioned it before, there is another game happening tonight. That happens in Auckland, and you get to catch it 5:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Fox Netball or Kayo, so make sure you tune in. Maddie, game 2. If you are Stacey Marinkovic, who is in your starting lineup? Oh, question without notice.
That's a tough one, but I think I'd go with a Clow. Sunday Ariane. I'd definitely have Jamie Lee Price on there. Probably start with a Hadley. I'd go do my most experienced lineup in a way: Watson, Austin, and Garbin. I think that has obviously played through the English series. There's definitely some continuity there. So get back to that team that really kind of put it on the map for them with the 13 goals wins against England. I'd go back to that. I definitely think they need to be a lot more frugal with the ball, be disciplined to go to circle edge. But yeah, I'd go back to that and say, look, your spots are riding on the line. As I said, like, you might be our most experienced, but that doesn't mean that you're untouchable. So get out there, put us in a really good position, and then rotate from there.
And I'd be so interested to see, like, obviously you do a lot of video analysis. So I'd be spending a lot of time, the Diamonds and the Silver Ferns, looking at what they can do better. I'd be really interested to see how Austin and Garbin come out and what confidence they have to take the shot over the tall hands of the Silver Ferns defenders. I think that the more confident they are at shooting, the less impact, obviously, the Silver Ferns defenders are going to have. And it was almost like they were spooked the second they walked out there, not really sure what to expect from them, where they're going to be. It is hard because they're not on your bodies all the time. That, to me, is something that we really need to make sure we nail in this game.
And it's also, you know, we were so used to playing against New Zealand, and now we don't see them that often. You know, you can watch on TV what they did against England, but they were like a totally different side. So, you know, I think if I was Garbin and Austin, I'd be actually looking at my Suncorp Super Netball footage against the Jamaicans. That high hands, that jump. How do we play? How do we move the ball? Those quick, short goaler-to-goaler angles, all of those starts. Get back to that form, because that'll put you in good stead, definitely, against the Kiwis.
And there'll certainly be a big fire in their belly to make sure that they get that game too. And also, it was announced on Sunday as well that now, rather than have it 2 games all like we've seen the last few years and it goes on who's won it in the past and the aggregate of the goals scored during those games, now finally we get a decider in a 4-game series. However, it gets a bit interesting here because the decider happens straight after game 4, and if it's 2-2, then they play another, I think it's two 7-minute halves to decide who's going to win. And then if it's a draw then it's whoever can get 2 goals up. So it makes game 4 very interesting now, how this is going to play out. Are you a fan of having this extra quarter in there to decide who actually wins the Constellation Cup?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you know what? This is once again like emulating what it's like to be in a tournament, that, you know, it gets down to that final game. You can be really solid during the first 3 games, and, you know, England, you know, might take the first 3, but if you're really, like, or first 2, but if you're really good in that second half and you tie it, then you've got that chance to play under pressure and the extra time. I think absolutely it should be, and it should have always been like this. You don't want it to come down to going, oh, well, you know, so-and-so has to win by 20 goals, and you know that can't happen, especially with no 2-point shot. So, yeah, absolutely. Put them under the pump. Get him into the furnace. Let's get to a result, B.
Love it. It's going to be a big game in Melbourne if it continues on the way, and the Diamonds can take a couple off the Silver Ferns in the lead up. And also, I think, too, when we look at that game and how it could play out, it means, to your point, making changes is going to be important in these first couple of games to make sure everyone's ready to go and you can call on any time, because you can't really expect a player to play every minute of every game in the Constellation Cup and then play the extra time.
No, I mean, Sophie Dwyer was someone that was spoken about. Obviously, hadn't played a lot of minutes during the English game, but actually came on and tried to spark a dude. But you could see that she was just lacking that little bit of international court time. So it just shows, yes, you can stay with your 7 and it can be really important, but we did question it after the England series. What did we learn? Not much. We learned that we had a really good 7, but do we have those extra moves? And when we actually needed to count on it, we didn't quite have the right mix.
And will Georgie Horgis make her debut at all in the Constellation Cup?
I think she has to. I think why have it in the mix if you're not going to put her in there? She's in form. She's shown in the last 2 years she's in form. Like, give her a go. Like, I think you've got to. As I said, I know we don't want to go out and lose series, but you learn a lot more sometimes about taking those risks, knowing what those players can do, than just sitting on your hands and just playing the same.
Oh, we don't know who's in the team yet for tonight's game, but we can't wait to see. Hopefully one Georgie Horgis might get a go. Well, that's Centre Court for another week. Thanks, Maddie, to you, and a big thank you to Flight Centre. Score game-changing savings on your holiday when you bundle and save with Flight Centre. And of course, CRT. Farming starts with CRT. No matter where you live or what you farm, it starts with CRT. And we'll see you again next week.